Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, legendary boxing writer Jack Hirsch. We're on Facebook Live, Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel. We're also on Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. Like, follow, share, and please subscribe to the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel to get all the great Northeast Streaming Sports shows. We also got a great website, folks, a great website. Where we're at nessp.info, all the shows, information on the shows. We also have sports, our guests, bios, stores, and links to those stores. So, Jack, very interesting game last night. And I'm going to bring up a video of the last play of the game for people that didn't see it because it wasn't on regular TV last night.
I thought you were talking about the Yankees, Mac.
No.
Later.
We definitely will because this is going to be a big topic today on our show, of course, with Byron Williams coming up and all that stuff. So let's take a look at the last play of the Washington Redskins Giant game, where the Giants at the time were leading 29-27.
48-yard try for the win.
And this is courtesy of NFL Network, folks.
Good snap, good hold, kick is no good.
Giants win. The Giants win.
But a flag is down in the secondary. Washington is saying that the Giants are offsides. And it looks like Hopkins will get another shot. Ron Rivera believes it's against New York. The flag was dropped near the Washington sideline.
It's a 5-yard penalty and the first down. We will extend for one on time down.
Right there in the middle. That was Dexter Lawrence, who came across early. And now a 43-yard try for the win. Good snap, good hold. Kick is good. Washington wins it.
Yes, they do. The Washington football team does win it. And, Jack, I mean, you know something? You know, last week I ripped the Giants. I didn't think they were competitive. I thought that they weren't even interested in playing that game. This week, run called back on holding. End zone, wide open. Slayton, they gave him a retry. So minus 17 points the Giants put up. But as Bill Parcells says, and I'm going to mention this to Byron, there's a handful of plays that decide the game, and you are what your record is. So what are your thoughts, Jack?
You know, I'm a Jet fan, but I always root for the Giants to win. I always do. I want to see the Giants win. When the game ended, I was utterly disgusted. Was I upset with Dexter Lawrence? A little bit. But I think kind of like the focus gets pointed too much on one particular play. In this case, two plays. Darius Slayton dropping the ball in the end zone. They were poorly coached yesterday. The finger should be pointed strictly at Joe Judge. The amount of times they were offside. In the second half, they're driving for a touchdown, okay? I mean, they're not about the 25-yard line. 2 offsides in a row take them out of field goal range. So now they have third down. Daniel Jones has to dump a pass off just to get back in field goal range. Before the field goal was attempted at the end of the game, the Giants have to call a timeout. It wasn't the timeout that mattered in itself because the Giants really didn't need the timeout, but they had 2 extra men on the field. That showed the level of disorganization. At the end of the game, when the Giants are down a couple of points, they're down 1 point, and they need a field goal to go ahead. But in reality, you want to score a touchdown. The Giants have the ball with 2 minutes and 15 seconds left. okay? That's after the great interception by James Bradbury, who played a poor game but redeemed himself with a sensational interception. So the Giants have it with 2:15 left. They should be able to run the clock out if they're playing the way they had all game. Jason Garrett, to that point, called a magnificent game as an offensive coordinator. Wow, he was dazzling. The plays he set up, the way it opened it up for Daniel Jones, it was so unpredictable. Jason Garrett was getting an A-plus grade to that point. Now, you know Washington has 3 timeouts. And, Mac, in all due respect, the old-time football, and I know you love the old-time football, the thinking and the ancient thinking to me that's still in effect is, well, make Washington use their timeouts. They run up the middle on first down. Predictably, Washington stuffs it. They run up the middle in second down. Predictably, Washington stuffs it. So they make Washington use 2 timeouts. They got 1 left. Then they try a pass when Washington knows that they're going to be passing the ball. So it was so predictable, and the pass is incomplete. So Washington gets the ball back with 2 minutes to go. The Giants make the field goal, but they only take 15 seconds off the clock, and Washington has the ball with 2 minutes to go. Now, you have to understand why the NFL is different today, and you understand this, of course. We're living in an age of great field goal kickers who have powerful foots, okay? And all you have to do when you get the ball at your own 25-yard line is get the ball to the other team's 40-yard line. All you need is 35 yards. And with 2 minutes to go for Washington, 1 timeout, even no timeouts, you can get 35 yards. It's not a monster chore. It's not like getting 75 yards and getting it in the end zone where things crowd up as you get close to the end zone. So the Giants get cautious at the end. Poor coaching, poor calls at the end by Jason Garrett that to an extent outdoes his brilliant game plan before that. Guys were constantly offside. And I just feel with Joe Judge, it just wasn't a disciplined effort. But with that said, obviously, Dexter Lawrence is one of their better players. Yep. Inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable to be offside on a play like that. The chances of you blocking the kick are slim, okay? So to take that type of gamble at that stage, and the one with Darius Slayton, of course, I want to talk to Byron Williams about it. The blame's got to go with Slayton. You expected to catch that, but I didn't think it was a slam dunk catch. That's my own personal opinion. I guess you differ on that. You say, it's the NFL. You expect it to catch anything that's, in your hands or reasonable. But I thought, Daniel Jones in fast time originally before the replay just led him a little too much. Could have been thrown a little softer pass, right in his hands rather than have Slayton stretch a little bit. That's just my opinion. Yeah. I'll defer to Byron Williams when he's on the show, Mac, because he was a wide receiver in the NFL. He'd certainly have a more valid opinion than me.
Well, to me, there was some encouraging news. The Giants play Atlanta next week. And, Daniel Jones, a lot of people have said this is a make or break year for Daniel Jones. And in 2 games, he's looked pretty efficient, Jack. He led the league. He led the team in rushing yesterday with 95 yards. He threw for a touchdown, should have been 2. He ran for a touchdown, should have been 2 on that holding call. He went 22 for 32 for 249 yards, no turnovers. So everybody was saying, well, Daniel Jones has got to step up. I think in the first 2 games, Daniel Jones has played really well. He hasn't taken the team on his back, as some quarterbacks do. But
against Denver, you say he played well last week?
He was pretty effective, Jack. He did run for a touchdown and throw for a touchdown. His numbers weren't bad. I'm not saying he was great, but he was efficient. He threw for like 250 yards or something like that, and his percentage was okay. But the Giant defense, the last 2 games, is what I'm concerned about. Last year, the Giants had a very good defense that won or kept them in games that they did win. And this year, I don't know what happened, Jack. I mean, the defense, I know we lost a couple players on the defensive line. But I mean, we got one sack against Denver. The rookie got a sack, which was, against Washington. But you can't let a guy stand back there and throw 50 times for 326 yards. And I mean, Heineke looks like he's a pretty good quarterback. I'm not taking nothing away from Heineke because every time he started, he's played well. But you can't let him just stand back there and survey the defensive backfield. I don't care how good your defensive backfield is. So the defensive line has definitely taken a step back in the last these first two games. And the running game, they're giving up rushing yards, which they didn't last year. So I don't know what's happened there. They seem to upgrade their defensive backfield. But, Jack, the first two games, it ain't working. Hopefully that catches up.
Well, I'm going to say something with the Giant defense, which frustrated the heck out of me on that last drive. Washington's running out of time. I mean, they have no timeouts left. They're not in field goal range yet. You know they're going to throw a short sideline pass to get into field goal range. You just know it. Protect against it. Instead, these teams are playing scared. They're playing a little off the ball. They're scared to go one-on-one because they're scared Heineke might go long. But at that point in the game, what's the difference? Once you let them complete a sideline pass, they're in field goal range. And they didn't protect that, out on the sideline. I mean, you knew what was coming. It's like you know what punch is coming. You know your opponent is going to be throwing a desperation left hook because that's the only punch he could knock you out with. So you know exactly what's coming, and you still get hit with it. And it just frustrated the heck out of me where the Giants, on that last drive, they just weren't playing that aggressive. It was like they were scared to get burned on a long pass. But what does it matter at that stage? Once Washington's in field goal range, it's practically the same situation because they could win the game on a field goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of things that the Giants they've got to get, right, Jack. I mean, I think by game 6, if they're not 500, they're in trouble. They got to at least be around 3-3 in 6 game to have a shot because that's a division game. And then you got Dallas coming up in a few weeks. That's another division game. This one they could have won, they should have won, but didn't win. And that's the bottom line. They're 0-2.
To me, you take nothing out of this game. I don't want to hear this nonsense. Oh, the Giants played a real good game. This is something they can build on. Build on what? They played a team they beat the last few times. Yeah. So what are you building on? To me, it's a step backwards.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You could look at certain individuals. The story's not Daniel Jones this morning. I mean, not in a negative way, at least. Daniel Jones played very well. He showed us something. Saquon Barkley was very rusty, but at least it looks like he's going to get better as the season goes along. And Jason Garrett, until that last drive at the end when they got conservative, really called a good game plan. And it looks like they're going to be using Daniel Jones on a lot of running plays, which is good, conservative running plays. The touchdown Daniel Jones scored when there was a hold. I don't always get hyper over plays like that because my attitude is if there wasn't a hold, does Daniel Jones score? Sometimes the reason a guy scores, he reels off a big play is because there was a clip, there was a hold.
Yeah.
That could have contributed to it. What drives me crazy is when it has no effect on the play.
Right.
The guy is penalized. That drives me absolutely crazy.
Listen, Jack, we won't know whether he would have scored or not. He would have had a big game, that's for sure. I mean, if not a score, he had at least 20-something yards. Daniel Jones can run a 4.40. He's a lot faster than people think. So they did a concerted effort to feature him as running the ball this week because they don't have a running back besides Daniel Jones right now. So
and what bothered me, listen, Mac, at the end of the game, Galloway, their wide receiver, was arguing with Daniel Jones on the sideline. Yeah. There was a blow-up at the end of the game. To me, they don't need another Odell Beckham Jr. situation. Obviously, the Giants tried to put a spin on it after. Daniel Jones says, oh, no, it wasn't personal against me at all. He was just a little frustrated, not getting the ball there. It had nothing to do with me. Of course, it had everything to do with Daniel Jones. You're the quarterback. You want to know something? Certain quarterbacks in the league, I like their attitude, but you have to be a top-of-the-line quarterback, and Daniel Jones is not there yet. Whether he might never get there, but that's not the point. But certain top-of-the-line quarterbacks, no one is going to come back to the huddle and start snapping at Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady unless they're their buddy. If you're a close friend of the guy, you can get away with, because you're kind of like family in a way going at it. But it's totally unacceptable. It's a distraction. I would tell the receiver, if I were the coach, you complain, you start having a hissy fit, you're sitting. We're not going for that at all.
I agree. So that's it for the Giants until Byron gets back when we talk NFL. Yankees lose, Jack. Montgomery wasting a great pitching performance by Montgomery, 12 strikeouts. They lose to the Orioles. They have a problem with the Orioles, Jack. I don't know what it is.
They were one pitch away from winning.
Another one.
Gary Sanchez, the saga of Gary Sanchez continues.
Yes.
Someone has to tell Gary Sanchez, if it's a wild pitch, you're allowed to go get the bully. You can stick your glove out. You can leave your little space behind home plate to catch the ball. You don't have to just stick your arm out. You can move the rest of your body. 2 wild pitches at the end. But you know what games are lost.
Listen, you got to blame the pitcher too, Jack, not just Sanchez.
Yeah.
I mean, those were terrible pitches. They weren't even close.
Holmes was in the second inning of relief, and he's not really cut out for that. It just shows you how deprived the bullpen was. Listen, Chapman had pitched 3 games in a row.
Yep.
So I can understand him not getting that pitch. You know why the game gets lost, Mac? It doesn't get lost at the end. We look at the end. That's what we focus on. It got lost in the beginning of the game. The Yankees scored 2 quick runs. Then their offense is dormant the rest of the game against a weak Oriole pitching staff. They can't score anymore, so they're stuck on 2 runs all game. And then the Orioles down to their last strike, a wild pitch, and then it goes into extra innings. And when they go into extra innings, the Yankees are allowed under the new rule format to start out with a man on second base. Gardner's at second base, but they don't score. One play kind of wonders me in baseball why we don't see it more. We used to do it in Little League when we played Mac. Gardner's on second base. Very good speed. A ground ball's hit to third. Gardner's a few steps off second to distract the third baseman. When the third baseman throws across the diamond to first, as soon as it leaves his hands, why can't Gardner with his speed break to third base? That forces the first baseman to get it, throw frantically. There's a good chance there's going to be a wild throw, at least a reasonable chance. And the odds are you don't get Gardner out at third base. But, baseball doesn't kind of gamble that way, even with guys like who have speed. Could you imagine Jackie Robinson on second base? He'd be breaking in no time at all. There'd be a wild throw, him, Ricky Henderson, and they would score.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to me that baseball has gotten more conservative. We know there's not a lot of small ball. That's why I was surprised when they did the double steal. I mean, that was shocked me. And
they wouldn't have won the game if it wasn't for that double steal.
That's true. I don't know why they didn't try to bunt Gardner over to third. I mean, I know you could try to get as many runs as you want in that extra inning.
Not in extra innings, Mac. The small ball doesn't work that well. I'll tell you why, because the other team has a guy automatically at second base to start the inning. So you don't want to play just for 1 run. You're satisfied with 1 run, but then the other team gets up, no outs, man at second. So they have a reasonable chance of scoring in that case.
Jack, 1 run's better than no runs. So, I don't know.
Tell me about it.
I don't know. So now the Yankees have dropped into the 3rd spot in the 2 wild card, slots there with Tampa Bay and the Red Sox a little bit ahead of them. Seattle.
Blue Jays. Matt, you always, for the 12th time, You hate to mention the name Blue Jays. You always say Tampa Bay, because deep down, you feel the Yankees are going to get in the playoffs and play Tampa Bay, and that's what we're going to be talking about, like they played them last year.
I've got some bad memories with the Blue Jays at Yankee Stadium. I don't even like the name, but anyway. So listen, it's still wide open in the AL.
Let me just say something that happened in baseball, non-Yankee news, very quickly. That's kind of historic. Salvador Perez, the Kansas City Royal catcher, hit his 45th homer, tied Johnny Bench for the most homers that a catcher has in Major League history. One more homer by Salvador Perez. He breaks the Major League record. And we all know who Salvador Perez is, but he still seems like a well-kept secret playing in Kansas City.
Definitely. So great job with that, Jack. Hey, in the NL, the National League, and we'll get in while we can, you still got San Francisco holding on the first spot. And, of course, you got Milwaukee. And the Braves, just a little 2 games ahead of the Phillies. The Phillies are still involved in the wild card and for the division. Really, still. I mean, they beat Chicago 17-6 last night. They sure have a good offense when it gets going. But the Padres and the Cardinals, Jack. If you had to pick one team right now for that second slot, who would you pick? Do you think the Cardinals are going to do it, or do you think the Padres will end up getting that second spot?
My guess is the Cardinals, even though I picked the Padres to get into the playoffs at the beginning of the year. I mean, if I'm forced to stick with one, I'll stick with the Padres, but that's more emotional than logical, because the Padres have had such a long time to straighten out their ship, and they haven't done it. So what makes us think they're going to do it now? Well, the Giants and Dodgers have been consistently excellent all year long. The Padres have really been floundering. Cardinals are coming on a bit more. They're peaking a little more. And it's an interesting 3-way race, with Cincinnati, San Diego, the Cardinals. Who's going to grab that second wild card spot? And they'll have the honor playing the Dodgers or the Giants. But I can't help but think of the Mets. I mean, all they had to do is play halfway decent, and they wouldn't only be in the mix for the NL East title, but for the wild card. And it's hey, listen, wouldn't it be funny if the Phillies go on a tear and somehow they pass Atlanta, and Atlanta settles into the second wild card spot? It could happen.
It could happen, Jack. It definitely could happen. Backstage right now, folks, got one of our favorite guests that come in every Friday, our NFL analyst, Byron Williams. And, of course, we're going to talk a little bit about the game last night and the games coming up and what his thoughts are on it. So let's bring on former star wide receiver for the New York Giants. Has played in a lot of different teams and different leagues too, but here he is, Byron Williams. Good morning, Byron. How you doing?
Good morning. How you guys?
Good morning, Byron.
Yes, Byron. Of course, the talk of this morning's sports is last night's game, a very exciting game, but a game that the Giants had won in 3 different occasions and didn't do it. It reminded me of what you said about your days with Coach Parcells, right? There's a handful of plays that's going to decide whether you win the game or not. And, of course, he famously said, too, you are what your record says you are. So even though the Giants probably should have won that game, if not for mistakes, they still lost. So I go and visit a lot of Giants groups, Byron. And the fans are from, we're competitive. Daniel Jones is playing well to, hey, we suck. And that's the extreme you're going to have there. We lost the game. We can't even beat the Redskins. So what are your thoughts first, Byron, on
Washington football team, Mac? I don't want you to offend any group.
Listen, Redskins. I always call them the Redskins, Washington football team. I always call them the San Diego Chargers too, Jack. I even call them St. Louis Cardinals once in a while. So what are your thoughts about the Giants offense first, Byron? What did you think about the Giants offense last night?
The offense, they improved in some areas. I think consistency is one of the things that they got to continue to stay focused on. Mistakes gonna kill you. You cannot make mistakes. You can't drop touchdowns. When you're downfield blocking, you have to have control blocking. You teach these guys how to stock block. And these guys are grabbing around the shoulder pads and things like that. Little stuff like that makes a difference. I think the Giants are playing to lose. I mean, when you get the ball, when Bradbury, for instance, when he intercepted that ball, and you run 3 little short plays like they did, only eat up 16 seconds.
Thank you, Byron. Thank you, Byron. I was venting about that to Mac. Jason Garrett, up to that point, was outstanding in his game plan. And then they get so conservative at the end. You knew Washington was going to stuff both running plays. And then on third down, you know they're looking for a pass. And I got to ask you about Slayton, okay, the drop pass. I thought of 2 things immediately. I thought, is that Evan Ingram? I thought, just laughing to myself, because had that been Evan Ingram, they would have run him out of town, considering the drop last year. But and then I thought of you, asking you about this, on the show. In real time, my original thought was Daniel Jones led him a little too much. It wasn't on both guys, but then watching it in slow motion replay, it obviously was more on the receiver, but I think Daniel Jones could have thrown the ball a little better. Correct me if I'm wrong. You would know, being a wide receiver.
I think that Daniel Jones, he did his job. He put the ball there, right? He did his job. I think one of the things that these young receivers got to know is the angles that you take. When you run a post, you don't run the post down the middle of a goal line or the field goal. You run it to that post side. So I think his angle is wrong. Also, his head position. When you look at it real slow, his eyes and head didn't go down to the ball. It came off the end of his hand. So I think, too, just a little thing, and you tweak those things. The one thing that I learned playing for Bill Parcells when he sent me to the concentration courses is that you pinpoint things like that. You have to rule a lot of things out, the noise crowd, the lights, and all kinds of things, right? The player grabbing you and stuff like that. I tell you, if I get a receiver group in a room, you can start pinpointing the little thing, and I guarantee you the percentage will go up on them catching the ball consistently. And it's the angle that he took. I mean, he had a difficult catch the first touchdown. I mean, just a receiver, but you catch tons and tons of those, and you got to make it count. And one of the things, like I said, it is the confidence. You have to make sure that you have confidence. Right now, I'm pouring confidence into my 2 grandsons. I mean, it's just that it's a matter of you not wanting to lose and you wanting to win. And that's what Bill Parcells instilled in us. And that's what I love about it. I mean, just the little thing you have to tweak with some of these players because they so immature. They're not really there on that same page yet.
Yeah, but getting back, Mac, I just want to go emphasize what Byron said because it ticked me off to no end. 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The Giants are down, and they play scared. They don't want to risk a turnover. They figure they could kick the field goal. So you tried to make Washington use their timeouts, and it's no big deal because in this NFL, you have guys, all you have to do is get to the 40-yard line of the other team, and these kickers could make the kicks in this day and age. And you get the ball back on your own 25-yard line, so you only need 35 yards. So even if you have no timeouts with a couple of minutes left, you can get the 35 yards. It's not like you have to drive 75 yards for a touchdown, and then things start getting crowded the closer you get. And it frustrated the heck out of me how conservative they got trying to make Washington use their timeouts. So they made him use a couple of timeouts. Big deal.
But they didn't try to get the first down. That's what I didn't understand. Why did you not try to get the first down? And then you run these little elementary plays up the middle, and the defense is ready for that. They put everybody in the box. You got to have certain plays. What I liked about Dallas last week when they played Tampa Bay, they opened up their offense for the first time, and you seen that the excitement. And in the NFL this day and time, if your defense is not really playing, you got to average 30-some points a game. 29 points, that's one thing. But when you get another touchdown added onto that, when you average 34 to 35 points a game, you're gonna be in every game in the NFL, and your chances to winning is more high percentage of winning that game. And I just say that they got to, who are their leaders anyway? You got to have leaders. You got to have Harry Carson. You got to have people that gonna get in your face. We talked to Pepper Johnson last week. Harry Carson and LT. That when your first and second year and third year player, you have to get in these guys' face to let them know and understand the game. Tony Talbot, he said that. You have to get in these young players' face to let them understand this is a professional. This is your livelihood, and you take it serious. You have to be focused. Why be 0-2 when you could easily be 1-1, or either be 2-0? I mean, the Giants have a talented team. It's just the little things I think that have pinpointed them and have separated them. You have to go into the game with a mindset that we're gonna control this game, we're gonna win this game, and we're gonna be all out. We're going to be 110%, not play the third quarter and then just depend on a field goal to win the game. Why do this guy, Dexter Lawrence, jump off sides? In the middle of the ball is right there in front of him. Discipline. It's the little things, I'm telling you. And you just got to say the Giants just got to get some more people in there that understand the process of winning games.
Well, Byron, I think you said something key through that whole thing. I mean, if you have the not Los Angeles, is it still the Los Angeles Rams? I'm not sure anymore. But the Rams, if you had the Rams defense, I might not have a problem you trying to be conservative. If you had a defense like the Baltimore Ravens or the 85 Bears or the 86 Giants, I have no problem with you playing a little conservative there and taking away a field goal. But when you're playing with the 2021 Giants defense, you can't be conservative. I mean, that only makes sense. They're not that good yet, and they may never be that good. I mean, if you've got to realize as a coach what your team makeup is. And Jack blamed this on Coach Judge. I agree with him to a large point because they were undisciplined. That's his job. His job is to make sure that the players, the coaches, the play calling, the time management is all discipline. And he didn't do that. He didn't do that yesterday.
Absolutely.
So as a head coach, I'm going to Jason Garrett and saying, hey, listen, my defense ain't good enough to stop the Redskin offense. So we got to go for that touchdown. We can't run 3 plays and try to pick up a first down or not try to, or whatever you're trying to do, make them use their timeouts. We're just not that good. You got to understand what your team is. And I know it's the beginning of the year, and maybe the Giants defense gets better down the road. Who knows? But right at this time, you mentioned Lawrence jumping off sides. You mentioned grabbing the guy on that big run Jones had. And, Slayton has had a history of dropping and making great catches and dropping balls anyway. So Jack puts it on Coach Judge. I know Coach Judge puts it on himself. I mean, I heard him. It's my fault. He came out and said it. And you can't have too many men on the field. You just can't do it. You can't do that during a game. That just shows you're not ready for the game. Now, going forward with the Giants, I said to Jack that by game 6, if the Giants are 3-3, they're in trouble. They've got to get back fast. They got Atlanta coming up, the Saints, which is no picnic, and then you got the Cowboys. And you're going to have to win at least 2 of those 3 games because if you don't, the Eagles, the Redskins, and I even think the Cowboys have a shot at putting some distance between them and the Giants. So to be effective, by game 6, I feel, Byron, they got to at least be 2-4 to 3-3, or they may be out of it.
Absolutely. I agree. And it's just the little things, I think. I mean, it's not the end of the world right now.
No.
It's a long season, but I just think they're going to have to get some urgency in their coaching staff and the leadership of the team. They got to define who they are. They got to understand they need to not play to lose games. And I take that seriously because it's one way of how you look at a picture. Some people look at the bottom of the picture and just a small part of the picture, but you got to look at the whole picture. And like I understand what Joe just said. One player or one play don't matter. But I tell you what, you got to go back to what Parcells used to always tell us. It's 5 plays in this game they're going to determine the outcome of the game. And they didn't prepare themselves for those 5 key big plays. And when you look back at the game, it defines itself. You know, just like this little thing. Like I said, you plan to kick a field goal when you got to be aggressive, and you know you just got to. It's little things like that that really separate winners from losers.
They're scared. You know, they're scared. These coaches, offensive coordinators, head coaches, they don't want to make the play where they're going to get they're scared to be criticized. If Jason Garrett had opened things up a little bit at the end with 2 minutes and 15 seconds and there was a turnover, the media would have gone crazy. Well, they were in position to kick the field goal to go ahead. So they're actually playing scared at the end of the game. One player I want to comment on who's going to be getting a pass, who really disappointed me yesterday. And you mentioned big plays. He had a sensational interception, James Bradbury. He was struggling throughout the game. And this is a guy that they were talking about who could be one of the elite corners in the NFL. He's improving. He's this, he's that. I didn't see him play too good of a game yesterday. I mean, what's your reaction?
Yeah, absolutely. He got to, and plus he needs to emerge as a leader. He's got to be a leader, and you know Collins and those two guys got to be the leader of the secondary, and they got to get in those other guys' face and say, hey, we are in this together. We got to make turnovers and create turnovers and things like that. But he did make a great play. You know, he stepped up, but you can't make a great play. You got to make a great play every time. You're a Pro Bowl receiver. You got to make things happen all the time, and you got to make sure that your teammates in the secondary is on the same page with you. But yeah, they was out of sync. And you know, Taylor Hensley, you know, burned them for almost 350 yards. I mean, this guy, he had a great game. I mean, he didn't make any mistakes either. But you have to give credit to Washington. They was at home. And another thing, when you play on a team at home, and you give them the ball with 2 minutes left, you're not gonna win that game. I'm sorry. It just in the NFL, everybody's good.
Mac, Byron and myself on the same page here. We're venting about this all morning. Yeah. One thing bothered me, and I mentioned this to Mac before, that I found totally unacceptable. You can relate to this. I don't know whether you ever did it, but it's unacceptable. At the end of the game, Galloway is complaining on the sideline, having a hissy fit to Daniel Jones. And then afterwards, there's damage control. Jones is saying, oh, no, it's not personal against me. Of course it's personal against the quarterback. It always is when you don't get the ball. To me, it's unacceptable. Unless you're Jerry Rice and you're like an all-world receiver, shut your mouth. Or they should. I would love for Daniel Jones to have pointed to him and said, shut your mouth and you never come over to me and complain like that again. Because if you do, you're not going to see the ball ever again. You know, and the coaching staff should put him in his place. They don't need another Odell Beckham Jr., guys having hissy fits. Nothing good comes of that. And the other receivers become resentful because the guy who has the hissy fits now going to start getting more throws his way. And the other guys are going to think, hey, just because I'm not complaining, I'm getting the ball less. You fill us in on this because you've been there in real-life situations in the NFL.
Yeah, you don't play the game that way. I'm sorry. You as a receiver, you got to know that there's certain times that you address issues. You try to work things out in practice. You don't do it on the sideline. You don't convert. I never converted none of my quarterbacks. I mean, I just tried to make myself better, stay focused on what I need to do, because it'll come back to haunt you when you start doing that. And that's what happened to Odell Beckham. That's why they had to get rid of him. And you can't have players like that. You can't have selfish players on your team. This is a team game, and you're only good as your last play. And so that's a very important point that you made. And you just can't have that being a part of your team, because everybody's gonna be pointing fingers when you lose. That's just the nature of the game. And you can't do that, and you can't have cameras on you. You can't draw attention to yourself like that. There's little stuff like that. That's what makes winners and losers, and that's what set the game apart. If you would think Tom Brady, he would have found a way to get that first down with that, when closing out the game. And that's the thing that you have to have your mindset. You know, you have to go in the game saying, oh, we're getting ready to get the first down. We're getting ready to score a touchdown. You know, little stuff like that. And you get in your offense, and it can't be so predictable. They were so predictable. You know they're getting ready to run the ball. You know you're getting ready to dump the ball off.
I think you can do that if you have a great running game, right, Byron? I mean, if you do have a great running game, you can do that. The thing I think, and I'm not going to disagree whether you should run or not in that position, but if I have a great running game, I have a great running back, I have no problem running the ball there because I know I'm going to get yards and I know I'm going to get a first down. It's when you don't have a great running game that now you got to do something to loosen up that team. You got to do what you're good at. And right now, the best running back on the Giants is Daniel Jones. So, I mean, you don't have a running back or the offensive line to run the ball at that point. So you got to know what your team is, right? I think being a coach, Byron, I think you could. Bill Parcells knew what you guys were, right? He built that team to do something what it's supposed to do. Now, I have no doubt, first down there, Parcells is going to give you Joe Morris, he's going to give you O.J. Anderson. That's going to happen. But guess what? The Giants are going to pick up that first down. And unless he wants to.
And I'll tell you another thing, too. We knew that we had to get 5 to 6 yards on that first down. Be second and 4, second and 5. When you do that, the defense can't control you. You have options. And like I said, they might have should have faked the ball to Saquon and then let Daniel Jones run outside. It's something with the option to throw the ball or dump the ball to the receiver. Things like that is what's setting you apart on your offense. Now,
if you're the Miami Dolphins, as Don Shula did with his rookie year with Dan Marino, if you have Dan Marino and you don't have a running game, of course you're going to pass the ball there. So, I mean, I think awareness of what you have at the time, not what you want, but what you are as a coach. You got to know what you're the best at that time and go with it. And right now, the Giants don't have a running game besides Daniel Jones, and he's not a running back. So I agree with you and Jack both on that.
But listen, just getting back, 2 minutes and 15 seconds. What's the worst that would have happened had the Giants opened it up and thrown the ball? Obviously, Daniel Jones knows they have to field goal if they want it.
A turnover.
Be a little conservative, throw the ball away if someone isn't open. That goes without saying. So let's say they threw 3 passes, all of them were incomplete. They still could have kicked the field goal. The worst that would have happened, Washington would have had 3 timeouts left instead of the 1 they had. But what would it have mattered? Because they got the ball with 2 minutes left, and that's more than enough time to get 35 yards at least to get in field goal range.
Right,
I mean, so they kind of were playing scared, like Byron said. 2 handoffs up the middle. Washington was waiting for it. It was so predictable they were going to stuff it.
I mean, we both agree with you, Jack. All I'm saying is,
but
as a coach, Byron, just let me get this. As a coach, you got to know what you're good at, right? And as I said, when the Giants of the 80s would ran that ball and they would pick up the first down, the Giants of 2021 cannot do that. And you got to know that as a coach. Go ahead, Byron. Sorry.
One thing you got to remember, look at the best teams that's playing. You got to use your tight end as well. It's Kyle Rudolph, man, you got to dump him the ball. This guy made some great plays. You got to understand your personnel.
Right.
I mean, they got to use Kyle Rudolph in the scheme of things. And so that's another thing I think that they overlook or forgot. You got to, I mean, being an offensive coordinator, you got to make sure that you know the strength of your team.
Yes, I agree.
Do you know something? If they weren't going to pass, what they could have done on first down, second down, Daniel Jones could have faked the handoff and rolled out and ran on his own. The way they were doing it all game successfully and so conservative. I don't believe Jason Garrett had such a great night until that point.
I agree. So that's enough about the Giants. Let's get to the rest of the NFL. Got some really interesting games coming up this Sunday, right? You got New Orleans with Winston, who looks like the second coming of Johnny Unitas out there under Sean Payton. Had a great game, and he's going up against Carolina. Carolina's no slouch. I mean, it's a pick in the spreads. I mean, Sam Darnold looked good. McCaffrey looked good. They got a good defense. The Saints the same way. I mean, they got Kamara. They got a good passing game. They got a good defense. I mean, what do you think, Byron? Do you think Carolina has a shot at beating New Orleans, or do you think New Orleans gets their second win?
I like New Orleans because I like the coach. I think that's going to be the difference maker. And I think Sean Payton, he put good game plans together. And he knows the strength of his defense. And he had Jameis Winston last week just managing the game around the talent that he has. So I think if he consistently do that, it's gonna be hard to beat the Saints. But I like Carolina. They starting out real strong, and they at home again, and should be a good game. Gonna be one of those games that could easily go to the Carolina Panthers because, like you said, Carolina got some superstars on that team as well.
Yeah, and an experienced quarterback now. You also got
one of the best running backs. They
do. McCaffrey looked great.
You stop McCaffrey and make Sam Darnold beat you, and let's see what happens.
Well,
exactly. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Kansas City and Baltimore. Mahomes has Baltimore's number. The Ravens have run this system for the last few years, Byron, right? Jackson really is their running back. He goes back to pass, or he runs design running plays, or go back to pass, and when everybody's back his turn, coming receivers, he takes off, gets big yardage. And he's a great athlete, great runner. But do you think if Baltimore, they lost to the Raiders, if Baltimore loses to the Chiefs today, go 0-2 in that tough division there with Cleveland and Pittsburgh, and they have not the season they expect, do you think they start changing the system over there? Not just Jackson, but the system of the quarterback running with the ball as much.
Yeah, I think they're going to do something drastic because they got to win games. That's a tough division that they in, as well as this is going to be one of those games that they should have won the game last week. I think they was in the game to win it. Just a little thing, you got to get the running back. I think they signed Deontay, running back this week. They activated him, brother. And I just think too, they should have won that game last week. And but I also think that the defense ain't playing like it was last year up until this point. Right. So I think that's another factor as well.
I agree with that. You got Dallas going to San Diego. San Diego's got a good defense. I think their defense probably better than Tampa Bay's was last week. A good offense. You got some key injuries to Dallas too.
The LA Chargers.
San Diego Chargers. Gregory is out, and you got Lawrence is. I think he's got the COVID.
He's out too. He's out.
COVID, and then Gallup is out.
Yeah.
So the Dallas Cowboys defense is hurting, and they didn't play good defense last week. What do you think about that game? You think San Diego takes that, or do you think Dallas with their offense can match up?
I'm gonna say one player, Ezekiel Elliott. If he don't show up, Dallas will not beat him. And he got to be able to show up, and they got to score. They're gonna score 30-some points. Zeke got to throw the ball 45 times. Zeke got to get over 100 yards in order to beat him. I'm thinking, the Chargers played Washington last week. They could have easily lost that game. So, and the good thing about Dallas, they got a good fan base. So there's gonna be a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans in that stadium. So I just think it'll be a good game. But I do think that Dallas, it's a game plan situation, and it's gonna be the key personnel gonna be the running back for the Cowboys.
Let me tell you, as the season goes along, Byron, the question might be, has Ezekiel Elliott seen his better days? Because he hasn't, because coming off the year he had last year, and he didn't exactly get off to a great start against Tampa Bay.
Well, one of the things I like, too, is their offense a little bit more fun to watch this year. They ran some good plays. So I think Kevin is putting some great things on the offense. So it's going to be fun. They got to be able to utilize those receivers. And they throwing the ball to the tight end a little bit more, especially the first game. So that was good to see.
Well, I went through some stats where even when Dak is passing, for over 400 or 500 yards, they're still 2 and 3 in last year. So that doesn't normally add up to wins with a great passing offense. Raiders at Pittsburgh, Byron. The Raiders played well against Baltimore. Pittsburgh goes up to Buffalo, beats them. What do you see for those games?
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh is going to be a surprise team. I just like the strength of the Steelers. So I think the Raiders, they are predictable. They're gonna try to throw the ball to the tight end, and I just think they're not there yet. But I see that they are trying to improve on their defensive line and little things like that. That's really showing up. So,
the defense looked good.
The defensive line was that weak spot last year. They didn't hardly get any sacks and things like that. But seemed like to me, and another thing too, I think, Mac, is how you can win games away from home on the road. But going to the Steelers is gonna be a good game, and it's gonna be hard to beat the Steelers. One of the things I like about the Steelers, they get a good start, and they get their confidence up, and they play good error-free football.
Should be a very physical game for sure.
Absolutely.
Now, big question for you. Green Bay looked awful against New Orleans. Rodgers looked awful against New Orleans. And I don't want to hear he's not warmed up, he's rusty. The dude could probably throw blindfolded 80 yards and hit a fly off a wall. I mean, the bad offseason they had, very tenacious. They opened up against New Orleans. They fell flat. And Detroit looked pretty good against San Francisco, man. I mean, they played them tough. Campbell, I mean, he's a tough guy. Goff looked like a warrior out there. I mean, he kept coming back against that San Francisco defense. Maybe Goff is a little bit better than people think. So, of course, Green Bay is favored by a lot, 10.5 points, which wouldn't be a lot under normal circumstances. If Detroit gives them a game, should the Packer fans be worried? If they just give them a game.
Well, I think you need to be worried either way, but I just think too. I just feel like Green Bay is gonna blow them out this week. Just simple fact that it was a lot of things that need to be smoothed out in the locker room and probably with the coaches and so forth. The game plan wasn't up to par. I think playing in a remote location like they had to go. There's a lot of things happened that was not normal. They're going to Florida to play the first game. So I think they're gonna get back to who they are, and I think that's what Aaron Rodgers is there for. He gonna make things happen, and I just think they're gonna blow the doors off of Detroit. But I like Coach Campbell. He's a great coach. He's a great motivator, and he wants these players to play to the end of the game, and that's what I saw last week in Detroit. They got a good feel about playing on a professional level under Coach Campbell. So I like his approach and what he's doing with his team right now. He's trying to shape and mold them. And I think Detroit gonna be competitive like the Giants was last year. So I just think that but Green Bay, they play each other 2 times a year, and so Green Bay know their tendency. So I just think that Green Bay gonna get back to business. I really do.
Yeah. All right, Byron. So thanks for coming in as you always do every Friday. We love having you and your perspective on the NFL. Folks, join Byron and Jim Jeffcoat on their YouTube show Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. They had 2 great guests on last week. They had Pepper Johnson. They had Tony Tolbert, both Super Bowl champions, both Pro Bowlers, and both with a lot of knowledge about football. And, of course, Byron and Jim, former NFL stars. Great show. Check it out. Go to YouTube channel there, the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel, and subscribe and help that show and the network grow. Byron, again, thank you. Have a great day. We got some great games coming up Sunday, man. I can't wait to watch them. Have a great day.
I just love footballs in the air, man. It's good. It's good. It's good.
I know.
Man, you drinking that young water. You looking good.
Yeah. I mean, I got a haircut a few days ago. Something's the matter, Byron. We were on the same page today. We agreed with everything, so I kind of wonder what's up.
I tell you what happened, and you learn a little bit more about football.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I've been watching football longer than you have. I got that one on you, right? Watching, not playing.
Exactly, but and you one of the smartest men I know. So
yes.
Hey, y'all have a great day, man. It's always awesome to be a part of this.
Thanks, Byron. Have a great day, my friend.
Okay, all right.
Take care, Byron.
There you go, Byron Williams, NFL analyst, former NFL star, wide receiver. Jack, it always is fun having him in, getting his perspective and thoughts. Folks, we're going to go ahead and take our first break of this show. Of course, we got to get up and stretch a little bit and get ready for our next guest. Keith Engel will be coming up here a little bit after 9 o'clock. He covers the Patriots, the Yankees, college football, and there's plenty of news to go around about all those teams, and we'll get into them with Keith when he's up. Stay with us. We'll be back in a few minutes.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211-INFO-LINE. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Now we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, though, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on live Thursday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, legendary boxing writer himself, Jack Hirsch, who also, folks, knows a heck of a lot about sports in general. Jack, we're second week in. It's really early. Maybe we shouldn't even be passing judgments on the teams yet. We should maybe be waiting until game 4. When you get a quarter of the season over, a lot of coaches say they divide it into 4 quarters, right? Your first 4 games, you want to at least be around 500, at least one win. And by the half, you should be starting, the next 4 games, you should be starting to get yourself together. By the third quarter, you should be taking your lead in the division. By the fourth, you should be catching on fire and putting together the best games you have.
Mac, no, listen, I agree with you in this sense. I disagree. It's okay to pass judgment. The one thing I disagree with, I don't think you can analyze the standings or should analyze the standings after a couple of games. And I don't think you should look too far ahead in your schedule and say, well, I better win this game or that game, because late on in the season, we're playing this team and that team, and they're going to be really tough. You don't know what position that team's going to be late in the season. And I'm not talking about just standings, but how good they're going to be as the season goes along. Look at the Steelers last year. They were an elite team. They started off 11-0. Who would want to play the Steelers? They were an elite team. But then they, at the end of the season, I mean, they lose a few games. So you'd want to play them at that point. Then they weren't that tough late in the year. We don't know a team like the Jets or the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Houston Texans. Maybe they'll be tougher as the season goes along. I mean, Houston did win the opening game against Jacksonville, maybe by default. But we want to judge a team how they play. And we were right to evaluate the Giants the way we did. They made certain mistakes. We should pass judgment on it. I mean, it was unacceptable, the number of offsides, how conservative they got at the end, the dropped pass. I mean, it's okay to pass judgment on things like that. Byron Williams mentioned a great point that I didn't think with Slayton, okay? And this is what threw me off, and this is why I maybe blame Daniel Jones a little bit on the throw, and I shouldn't have. The angle Slayton took to the ball was a very poor angle. So there was something about that play that bothered me, where I wasn't ready to put the full blame on Slayton. But after listening to Byron, who played in the NFL, and he talked about the angle you take to the ball, yeah, I see it being Slayton's fault, and it was all on him.
Well, backstage right now, we got our friend from TGI Sports Talk, Keith Angle, who covers Patriots, Yankees, college football, and has a hell of a show over there at TGI Sports. So if you get a shot, folks, if you didn't see it live, you'll catch it. You can catch it on Northeast Streaming Sports or at his site and check it out. He had an exciting guest on there, Skip Hall, that we had on before. He's a very good coach. He coached for Boise State, so I'm sure it was a great interview. So let's bring up Keith and let's get his thoughts on the Patriots last week and what they'll be doing this week against your Jets, Jack. How you doing, Keith?
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
We're doing okay. I'm licking my wounds a little bit, Keith. I mean,
tough loss, man. Tough loss.
Well, you introduced Keith all the teams he covers, but I hear after the Yankee loss, Keith asked to be reassigned to cover the Red Sox instead of the Yankees. He'll do the whole New England area instead.
Give me the Arizona Diamondbacks. I don't care.
Well, let's start off with the Yankees because of course the Patriots. We know what happened, but we're gonna get to them right after the Yankees. The Yankees lose to the Baltimore Orioles. This time of the year, you can't afford to lose to teams that you should be able to beat. I mean, if you're going up against the Red Sox or you're going up against Tampa Bay or against Toronto, it's a tough game. You lose, that happens. But when you're playing a team like the Orioles, who have been playing better, I'm going to give them credit. They have been playing better lately, but you should be able to beat the Orioles, Keith.
You can't lose as many games as you've lost this year. You can lose a game, or two, but they have not. I think they've got a losing record against Baltimore, if I'm not sure, this year. And they lose them in such great ways. It doesn't matter who we bring in the ninth inning. Nobody can close out a game without excitement or blowing the game entirely. And last night it was Clay Holmes, and it might as well have been Chapman. It doesn't matter who's out there. Look, and I don't know. This team is now a half game. If I'm right, they're half game out of the second wild card, and I don't know that the Red Sox or the Yankees. Neither one of them may survive the Mariners or the A's the way they're playing.
Yeah,
I
listen.
And Gleyber Torres, by the way, gosh, we moved him back to second base finally. But I'm beginning to wonder, and I love the kid's bat. I love that he doesn't have a bad attitude. Well, he didn't run out of ground ball the other night, and Boone took him out of the game. I'm wondering if he's ever going to be able to come back. And the same thing kind of happened to Gary Sanchez. It's very hard to hit rock bottom in New York and find your way back up.
Steve mentioned I'm sorry, Matt, go ahead.
Well, we know that Chuck Knobloch, for some reason, lost his confidence at second. Sirianni had some problems at second. They moved him to the outfield. Maybe he's our new center fielder. Maybe
something. It's a
maybe. Why not give him a shot out there? I mean, listen. He just looks like he wants to get that one guaranteed out. He's scared to throw the ball a little bit. He's scared of making errors. And Jack brought up your friend Sanchez. Now I know the pitches were terrible. He threw him way over the head of the pitcher. But Sanchez has got to make a play, at least on one of those balls. At least stop it. You know, I don't care what you do. Stop just putting your glove up and trying to backhanding things and putting your glove up. Get your body in front of the pitches. I mean, come on, that's basic baseball catching.
Yeah, I've always had an issue with the way he handled the game behind the plate. And I mean, you watch him with easy pitches sometimes. It looks like he's struggling to actually catch the ball. He can't frame pitches. He could save some of these. I mean, that pitch Clay Holmes threw last night, I'm not sure. I mean, Johnny Bench might have stopped it, but I'm not going to blame Sanchez entirely. But you're right. In general, he is not good at finding a way through. You got to do everything you can to stop that ball in that situation. I don't care what it is.
But Keith, I mean, we can analyze these things all we want, but like I mentioned to Mac earlier, the game was lost because the Yankees just stopped hitting. They score a couple of early runs, and then they go that whole game against this Baltimore Oriole pitching staff, which is arguably the worst in baseball, and they can't score. They just can't score a darn run.
Because we've gone back to station baseball and, not moving base runners around, not good situational hitting, just waiting around for home runs. And when they were winning 13 in a row, they weren't playing that type of baseball. They didn't have players who could necessarily do it either. They had some, but when you're playing Wade and Velasquez and you got to manufacture runs, they were a much better team. And as soon as they got healthy, it went away.
That double steal was excellent with Wade taking third and, who was it? Torres taking second. I mean, that surprised me. Who was it?
You're talking about the night before or last night?
Yeah. I was shocked. I was like, what the heck are they doing over there? Getting crazy.
I thought maybe Aaron Boone, I think, was surprised too. I think Wade did it on his own because Aaron in the post game said, what a great play by Wade. And it sounded like the way he portrayed it, he didn't tell him to do it. So it takes him good right there.
Against the left-handed hitters, that's not the best move to steal.
No,
to steal home. So
it all worked out and turned into a win, but it could have been a disaster. We'd be having a different conversation.
We sure would. So the Yankees again, even if they get the wild card, I'm not intrigued by them going. You got to play hot at the end. You got to be playing good baseball. Their bullpen is worn out. Their pitching staff is okay, and their offense is not as good as it should be. And Keith, I start looking to next year already about what the Yankees got to do. And of course, they got to get a pitcher. We're finding out in hindsight that LeMahieu deal was not the deal to make. They should have kept that $90 million and went after a pitcher, even if it was for 2 years. I don't care. But they should have saved that money because, I mean, really, LeMahieu's been playing okay. He's not LeMahieu of last couple of years, and
it was a good deal, Mac. You're not gonna for the $90 million for 6 years get an elite top of the line pitcher.
For 2 years, I could. For 2 years, I could.
$45 million a year. You're kidding?
I could, right?
Right, you'll sign Trevor Bauer the way the Dodgers did.
Scherzer
LeMahieu has been okay. He hasn't been what he was last year.
He's not worth $90 million either, Jack.
Well,
he's not getting $90 million for a year. He's getting $15 million a year. LeMahieu has been like a $10 to $12 million a year per player this year. It's not like the Yankees are getting ripped off. It's not like a bad deal.
They didn't need another infielder, Jack, when he's going to play first base. You got 2 first basemen. You got a shortstop in Velasquez. You already got a third baseman. I mean, what did you really need LeMahieu?
LeMahieu is far better than Velasquez.
I got to agree with Jack here. I mean, LeMahieu is an important person to bring back. Is he having a great year? No, but next year when he's hitting 330 again,
he's not going to hit 330 again.
We don't know that.
I guarantee you. I will bet you right now, Keith, he'll be lucky to hit 280 next year. He'll be lucky to hit 280.
That bet I'll make. I'm not going to make 30 bet, but I'll make the 280.
I don't even know if he'll do that. And he sure don't have the power he had. I don't want to hear about the juice. The ball is unjuiced when everybody else is creaming the ball. Listen.
No, I don't get into that either. I don't.
Listen. LeMahieu, we didn't have to sign LeMahieu. We could have got a pitcher. We could have got Scherzer. We could have. There's other pitchers out there that we could have gone and
Scherzer, Scherzer had a no trade and did not want to come to New York. He did not want to come to New York.
Maybe.
He was willing to go to L.A., to the Dodgers. He wasn't coming here, Scherzer.
It's also a good point. You know, the other thing, though, is we talk about the fact that they shouldn't have signed LeMahieu and given them money. This is the New York Yankees. My problem is that they want to run on, and again, they're spending a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but for them, they're running on an austerity budget, and they worry about luxury taxes. This is the New York Yankees. It's not the Kansas City Royals. You know, you don't need to pinch pennies the way they are and have been for a year and a half now, and you can make the team better. And again, I don't like the guy who's spending the money either. I just think his time has passed, and we need a new blood in here.
Listen, Keith. I'm going to tell you right now. You don't have to spend. The San Francisco Giants didn't spend $250 million.
I don't disagree.
Milwaukee did not spend $250 million.
And they also can't. Right.
Well, I'm just saying they didn't, and they're still playing better ball than the Yankees right now. I think it has a lot to do with the manager, and who structured the team. I don't care where you spend the money, but you got to spend it on your necessity.
Agreed.
All right? Rizzo, to me, is a big signing next year. He's a big signing. I don't know about Gio Urshela anymore. Since we have LeMahieu, let him play third. I don't care.
Rizzo's not a big signing. If you're going to re-sign Rizzo, he's 32, maximum of 3 years. I wouldn't give him crazy money. I'd offer him something like $40 million for 3 years. That would be reasonable. They got Luke Voigt there on the contract the next 3 years. So Rizzo isn't a must signing. You're right what you said before. They have to address pitching sooner than they have to address Anthony Rizzo.
I don't see Luke Voigt playing first base. Rizzo makes his team so much more than just his bat. He makes that infield better, and they play crisper defense when he's out there, and he's a leader.
He's a leader. I was just going to say that.
The Yankees don't have – I mean, Judge is kind of a leader, but, like Derek Jeter, very quiet in leadership, right? Just goes out and plays. But they need a guy like Rizzo, I think. And Luke Voigt isn't that guy. And you found out when he – came back from injury, what kind of team guy he was.
Well, all Luke Voigt said he thought he should be playing as much as Rizzo. He had a right to say that. He was the American League home run champion last year. He'd been producing.
Got a right to say it. He doesn't have the need to say it, though.
Voigt's our new catcher next year. That's where I'm putting Voigt.
He'll do as good a job as Sanchez. So
I agree. So Voigt's our catcher. We move LeMahieu to third. We got Rizzo at short. Now we'll take our kid there that's having a problem. Put him in center, and we're good. All we need is a pitcher.
In all seriousness, Glaber may end up in the outfield. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean,
he's fast.
Up on his bat, but everything else that's gone wrong has affected his offense besides. And
he's fast. He's fast.
He's a lost cause. It's looking like the Ed Whitson of second base here. We can't even play him in New York pretty soon, maybe.
So the Yankees are now half a game out of the bottom spot in the wild card. We'll see what happens. It's going to go down to the last week, I think. There, the Patriots. Listen. Tua put it on you at the end. How could you let Tua beat you guys at the end there like that? I mean, listen. Well, Miami's got a good team, Keith. I'm just.
They are a good team. They are.
Yeah,
good.
Miami is a good team. New England played well enough to win. If they didn't, again, ifs. But the record is the record.
Right.
They got the Jets coming up. This is your chance to redo the ship. I mean, Wilson played well. The Jets are going to be up for you guys. There's no doubt about it. That head coach is a defensive coordinator. I mean, he'll have a plan against you guys. It should be a good game, but you guys are favored by, I think, 3.5. I think you guys cover this.
I do too, and they're at the Jets. I hate being a road. I don't know how they were a road favorite last week, to be honest with you, in Miami. That's a bad line right there. I mean, if I was not a Patriot fan, I'd been all over Miami last week. They didn't play bad. Mac Jones did not play bad. They didn't ask him to do a lot, but he protected the football. The only I got a little worried. Like I think it was the very first series, he got harassed by about 3 Miami Dolphins that were spinning him around, and he ended up throwing the ball backwards. Which, by the way, in the NFL and I think every level of football, that's a fumble, not a pass, Mac. You're not throwing a ball away. They got away with it. Only mistake I make all day, really. The problem was penalties and turnovers. They win that game if Damian Harris doesn't fumble the ball at the 9-yard line with a minute left. As well as Miami played. They played well enough to win. They should have played better against Tua. Their front seven, and this worries me against the Jets a little bit. Their front seven is really good, but it's covering some big problems at the corners, I think. And I don't know that Gilmore's on the pup list, and I keep hearing they're still trying to trade him.
Yeah.
So,
Keith, good point with the two quarterbacks, Zach Wilson and Mac Jones, how their situation differs so drastically. With Zach Wilson, it's just as long as he's developing, everyone's happy. The Jets can lose games. But with Mac Jones, forget about his development. They got to win. That's all that counts, with New England. Win games. Even if Mac Jones is coming along nicely, if New England is losing games, there's going to be a lot of discontent.
Well, I'll tell you, again, I said last week that I thought this team would be a work in progress. He'd be a work in progress, and they would struggle in the first month or so. But they would be in playoff contention and likely make the playoffs and be a tough out come playoff time. And I think Mac Jones will continue to move forward. I'm disappointed they didn't win that game last week, but I wasn't at the end of the game throwing my hands up and going, oh my gosh, here we go again. Season's over. The division games you don't want to lose, but I saw a lot of good last week, and the things that were bad I see as correctable. The penalties were awful. They lost a 1st and goal. Don't forget that they ended up on. They had 5 drives over 14 plays that all resulted in field goals. Once they got down, Bolden got down to the 1-yard line. It would have been 1st and goal. They had a holding penalty that brought it back. They ended up with a field goal instead of a touchdown. And then you got the turnovers. The kid they love at running back, who I keep hearing maybe the starter by the end of the year, Stevenson, he had a fumble, early in the game. And, you do that as a rookie with Bill Belichick, you're in the witness protection program. Basically, you're not going to be seen again for a while.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pluses. They came out with a loss, and you're right, Mac. At the end of the day, you end up with an L.
Right.
And I see a lot of
Keith, it's very. If you lose to the Jets, you're 0-2 in your division. Now, this is early in the season. Anything can happen. But when you're dealing with Buffalo or Miami at the end of the year, the Jets will be competitive. I'm not saying they're not going to win their share of games, but that's the 3 teams that are going to be in the mix at the end. And if you're 0-2 in your division, that might count against you. So it's a big game this week.
It is a big game, but I just don't see them losing this game. Belichick, I think, has probably been cracking the whip. I know he had some harsh words for Harris after the game last week and during practice this week. They've probably been walking around. I remember an old college football movie years ago where a guy had trouble fumbling and the coach made him carry the football around everywhere he went.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think it was called The Program. I think it was James Caan.
Yes.
I got a feeling Damian Harris and Stevenson may have been carrying the football around everywhere they went last week. So
you might be right. So let's turn to the college football scene. A few upsets. Probably the biggest was Oregon beating Ohio State.
Yeah.
Ohio State, of course, and Clemson are normally the favorites to be there at the end of the year. So this is kind of a dual question for you. If Clemson goes and wins every single game and Ohio State turns around and goes win every single game, and say Oregon is in the mix at the end, would it surprise you at all that Clemson and Ohio State end up in the top 4?
And Oregon's undefeated?
Well, say they got 1 loss.
That'll make it a different story. Again, you got it's there's too many games to play. It depends on who that 1 loss is to, I guess, right? If they lose to Oregon State,
supposed to be.
Right? It should matter. Clemson's loss is to the number 2 team in the country. They looked horrible. And the problem is the ACC's probably not as good as it's been this year. So even if Clemson runs the table, their quality of victories aren't going to be what they've been in the past. Ohio State, look at the Big Ten, looks strong right now. Iowa looks really, really good. And if they have 1 loss and they beat Iowa in the Big Ten championship game, I can see a 1-loss Ohio State team getting in over a 1-loss Oregon team, even though they beat them head-to-head. It all depends on how they play. I think Ohio State's going to lose more games. Their defense is putrid. Yeah. I don't know how they can continue with the defensive coordinator and the defensive game plan they have. This isn't just Oregon they just ran the ball up and down. The game was not as close as what the score was.
Yeah, I watched some of it. I saw that.
Just dominated the line of scrimmage, and Ohio State, this has been a problem for them for a couple of years.
Yeah, but you know something? Let Ohio State in there last year, what they win 5 games. They played 5 games and let them something like that, something ridiculous.
Yeah, that was again. It was a tough season, and it's hard to keep them out because they're one of the 4 best teams in the country.
Well, or they're one of the most 4 popular or maybe one of the most 4 popular teams in the country because they want the views, Keith. They want the views, and that's why a lot of teams don't get in there.
Yeah, and the problem with and I've talked about it here, I'm sure I talk about it on my show a lot, the preseason rankings. I hate that there's any rankings. None of those teams that weren't playing in September and October last year, how can you still be ranked, Ohio State, if you haven't played a game? And that's the only reason they ended up in the top 4. If they had to start at, 35 because they hadn't played a game, they'd have had a hard time getting in the top 4 in just 5 games.
I agree.
So, but again, teams have an advantage with these post or preseason rankings being, Clemson is ranked 2. They fall only, 4 places by losing their game. Cincinnati blows out 2 teams. Now, not great teams. I understand that. But they sit there at number 8 watching 3 teams go by them, and they haven't moved an inch.
Yep. That's the way it is.
The system is rigged for the Power 5, and
it sure is.
Always
sure is, Keith. Well, hopefully that gets addressed. We'll see what happens with the SEC taking over NCAA. There's a lot of stuff happening over there. It's going to be interesting to see that season just develop. But there's one thing for sure. No one's beaten Alabama this year, and they're going to win the championship. I can tell you that right now. Fully confident in that. I'll bet you that, too.
I saw one of those percentage things. Guys.
1 second, Jack. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I got to get this in. I am actually going to pick Florida to beat Alabama in the swamp.
Yeah, you said Miami was going to be better too, and they got trounced. Get out of here.
I didn't say they'd win the game. I said they had a chance.
Yeah, they had a chance. All right, they had a chance to go back home.
It was a much better team than Miami. That was more of a heart bet more than a head bet. That was
All right, go ahead.
Listen, I don't know as much about college football as either you two guys, so this puzzles me, straighten me out on this. I see these percentages of teams, their chances of winning something, and Alabama's chances of winning the national championship. I'm looking on the ESPN, it says percentage 36%. And with my knowledge, shouldn't it be 96%, 36% or something? I mean, that threw me for a loop.
Yeah, well, first of all, there's too many stats like that anyway. I mean, look at the baseball. Look at the baseball standings. ESPN loves to put percentage to make the playoffs next to every team, right? And the Yankees went from 95% to like 13% in 2 weeks after they'd won 13 in a row. And it's the same thing with football. I mean, there's a whole schedule to play. How can you say you can't say there's a 90% chance Alabama wins? I mean, 36 is pretty high at this point. I guarantee you they're the highest.
The team Alabama may not beat, Keith, the second string team of Alabama. So that's the team they may not beat. Keith, thanks for coming in, buddy. We got to get a quick break, and then we got the Philly sports guy giving us he's got to be happy. I mean, the Eagles, the Phillies are still in the mix. I mean, I can't wait to get him on.
Before I go, congratulate Jamie for me. And I mean, I love the guy, so I don't mean this in a bad way, but thank you for not having me on with him today because he'll be unbearable.
Listen, I want to get you by yourself and Pags by yourselves because Jack, when Jack gets talking, you're both there. I lose total control of the show.
Well, if I was Keith's advisor and he was on with Pags, I would tell Keith to detour to Ben Simmons. Keep the conversation on Ben Simmons.
I get it. Thanks, guys.
Take care, Keith. We'll see you. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the football, and we'll see you next week. Keith Engel from TGI Sports, folks. Check him out when you get a shot. So, Jack, we'll take a quick time out. We got Pags. Jamie Pags, the man who said Philadelphia's team is too fast for anybody out there. And guess what? Last week he was right, Jack. We'll see what happens next week. I mean, listen, I'm not a believer yet, but Pags has got me on the fence now. I don't believe he did. How did you do that?
Pags, good gosh, they beat the Atlanta Falcons.
They beat who they had to beat, and they did it convincingly, Jack. That's all that matters. We'll be back after this, folks.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma.
I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah, zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, guys, any...
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're on Thursday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. live on Facebook, the Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel, Twitch. We'll also be on Twitter, Instagram, and many other outlets. Go check us out on iHeartRadio, Pandora, iTunes, and Spotify, where you can hear our show there if you can't reach it, reach a screen. And right now, Jack, backstage, he's been waiting patiently back there for us. Jamie Pags, the Philly sports guy, and I can't imagine anyone more happy today than Pags. What's going on, Pags?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Doing real good, Pags. You told us, and just for your record, me, Jack, and Jim Jeffco picked the Eagles to beat the Falcons. We thought that they would beat the Falcons. But you were right in a couple areas. One, your offense is very fast, and it's going to give teams troubles all year. You got a great running back there who's played great since he's been there. Sanders replaced Barkley at Penn State. And, of course, you got the Heisman Trophy winner there who they got open off the line, which was surprising that he got open the way he did. But he did, and Hurts played a great game. I mean, you know, a lot of people say, Pags, it's just the Falcons. But you know something? You're 1-0. Your defense came out alive in the second half. And you just beat them up, and that's what you're supposed to do. You beat who's on your schedule, so you're 1-0. And what do you think about the game?
I thought it was a great all-around game. The biggest difference amongst every facet of the game in comparison to last year was the offensive line. And ultimately, I mean, I've said it many times that that's where championships are won and lost. And ultimately, it's, you could tell that the right side of the line was a Pro Bowl side of the line, the left side of the line with Mailata on there. Sayamalu had a little bit of issue, and he's definitely the weakest link on that line. But I mean, they just were head and shoulders better than last year in general. And I thought that was where it all started. And, from the first drive where they were able to go down the field and score a touchdown. And, like I said, the defense was a little sketch in the beginning, but they were able to kind of start to pull through once they started to take advantage of the offensive line and they were able to stop the run of Atlanta. That's really Atlanta was running the ball at will in the beginning of the game, and then they were able to kind of hone in and stop them because obviously, unfortunately, I just think Matty Ice is, the game is. I think he's in the first year of the 2 years that he's played too long.
Yeah, and the Atlanta offensive line is not that good either, really. I mean, the team is really the window last year. I think started closing. They got a new coach. It's going to be a rebuild, and when they have a veteran quarterback on a rebuilding team, it's going to be even that much tougher. Eli went through it a few years. If he played with a better team, he probably would have had a lot better numbers. And I think Matt Ryan's just going to push on after this year. I would think they want to just get totally young and just rebuild to rebuild. Having a veteran quarterback on a rebuilding team normally doesn't work out. But you guys are rebuilding. But Hurts, let me tell you, Hurts was accurate. He didn't overwhelm you, but boy, he was efficient. He hit the guys for scores. He ran when he had to. He didn't run because he wanted to. It's when he had to, and that wasn't that much, Pags. Right.
He only ran like 7 times for 67 yards, which was still close to 10 yards a carry. Obviously he's got some improvement to do. It wasn't a perfect game. Obviously there was that one play where he threw the ball to Ertz and the ball barely got there. Had it been a better strike, probably would have been a touchdown. However, to be honest, thank God there was nobody close to Ertz, because if there was anybody close, that could have been a pick six in the opposite direction. So he did throw a couple of wobblers. That is going to be one of the biggest differences that we noticed. Carson Wentz, when he was in the pocket, was having trouble. But when he got out of the pocket, he had the arm strength and the accuracy outside the pocket. That's one of the weaknesses that Jalen Hurts has. So I did see a couple of floating ducks and wobblers out there. He is going to need to work on that. But beyond that, I mean, he was a great game manager. And that's what they really need him to do this year. They need him to manage the game well. No turnovers, no unnecessary penalties, and the offensive line did have a couple. Sayamalu was not feeling that silent count a good bit. But beyond that, I mean, like I said, it was an all-around great game. I mean, their receivers over there, Kyle Pitts looks like he's going to be the real deal. Calvin Ridley is not Julio Jones, and you could definitely tell that they're going to need some work in Atlanta. However, everybody said that they were going to win this game. It was that they were a 3.5-point favorite. Like I said, if I was a betting guy, I was going to try to switch it so that the Eagles were given 3.5 points and take the money on that, because I thought that the Eagles were going to beat them handily, and they did.
Well, listen, we all picked the Eagles here, Mac, myself, Jim, Jeff, Code, in all fairness, and I've been high on Jalen Hurts all along. Is he going to become an elite NFL quarterback? Probably not. Is he going to be a good one that you can move forward to? I believe he can. Potentially his ceiling might be, if he reaches it, another Doug Flutie type quarterback. And that's okay. You could win with guys like that. I think Jalen Hurts' maturity, playing all those years on college, not coming out early, that counts for a lot as far as leadership goes. And I think his mobility is going to disguise some weaknesses in the Eagle offensive line, which is fine. If he could bail out the offensive line a little with his mobility, I think that's a good thing. So I think going forward, I think the mindset of the Eagle organization has to be Jalen Hurts is our guy, but still I get the feeling he's kind of auditioning for the position future QB of the Eagles. You get that feeling he's still on a long audition?
To an extent, I got to agree with that. Obviously it was one game. And, when you say elite quarterbacks, really the biggest definition of the elite quarterback is wins and losses. It's not a matter of how you throw the ball. It's not a matter if the ball gets there fast or slow, how quick the release is. It's going to come down to wins and losses. Really, that's why Eli Manning is considered an elite quarterback, because he did win 2 Super Bowls. Do I think he's an elite quarterback? Absolutely not. But he gets put into that category because he did win when it came down to it. And that's going to be the definition. I do agree that he's got more to prove. You can't win game 1 and then start laying eggs, moving forward. So it's definitely a good step to build on. I was excited to be down there. It was a lot of fun to see as many Eagles fans as they are. I can imagine that the link is going to be electric on Sunday, because it is just like absolutely amazing in terms of the fact that there was like 10,000 Eagles fans down in Atlanta, and now they're going to be able to have 63,000 in the link. Yeah. And it's been a couple of years since we've done that. And I feel that last year, amongst all of the teams, there was a couple of teams that were really hurt by the fact that they played to no crowd. And I felt that the Eagles were one of them. I felt that it changed the way that the team coached. I felt that it changed the way that the team played. This year, they're not going to have that problem. And I feel that the players do feed off of the energy. And I feel like that the energy in the link this Sunday is going to count for 6 points, if not more.
Well,
and that's going to be a big deal.
Jim Jeffco brought up a big point and something I didn't know about Jalen Hurts. His father's a coach. His father's been coaching football. And the quarterbacks that normally have fathers that coach football end up doing really well, because they understand the game of football as a young kid as they go through. And of course, he did win in college. Listen, you guys we're going to talk about next week's game. You guys got a team that some people, including me, picked to go to the Super Bowl this year, Pags. I think the 49ers defense is awesome. They got their running game back. You've got, Jimmy G, who's fighting for his job there against a really good young quarterback. He played really well. Detroit kind of snuck up on them at the end of the game. They thought the game was over. Detroit had nothing to fear from San Francisco. That's how they played. In fact, San Francisco thought the game was over, and it wasn't. And I think the 49ers are going to be a huge test for y'all. You're talking about a playoff caliber, maybe a championship caliber team. A lot better defense than Atlanta, a really good running game, and if Jimmy G is a little hot, he's going to give you guys problems. This is going to be a good test for you guys. I'm not saying I don't think you'll win, but if you do win or you play competitive, I'm going to start believing in the Eagles even a lot more.
I agree. I think it's a great early season test. Obviously the Niners are a little bit dinged up. Their best pass rusher is going to be out, and or maybe it was their cornerback. I know that there was like a main component on the defense that's going to be out, and their starting running back also got hurt. So they're now on their third string running back. I think he's a rookie. I know I picked him up in a couple of my fantasy leagues. I feel that it's going to be a close game, that this game's not going to get away. I think that there are a couple of factors that are really going to help the Eagles. One, this is the second week that they are away from San Francisco. Obviously, they're not going to travel all the way across country because they stayed in West Virginia instead of going all the way back and then coming all the way back again. But they've been away from home for over a week, in West Virginia. Sometimes that works good. Sometimes that doesn't work good. I also think the fact that they're going to be up at 10 o'clock in the morning, the fact that they stayed in West Virginia is going to change that a little bit, but the fact that they're not used to playing at 10 o'clock in the morning is also going to play a little bit of a factor. And I expect, like I said, the crowd is going to be electric. in the link, and that's going to account for some stuff. And I believe that I have it that the Eagles are going to win 27-25 with a late field goal to pull ahead. And, of course, the score 25, where does 25 come from? But, right now, the way that the scoring happens in the NFL, all these numbers are feasible. So 27-25 is what came to mind, and I think that the Eagles are going to pull it out.
I think that collapse that the Niners had against Detroit last week, where Detroit was losing 38-10, and all of a sudden they scored 20 points. And Nick Bosa thought he was finished for the day, and then he had to get out there and play. I think that's going to help the 49ers in this game, because the mentality is going to be play hard from beginning to end, close the deal, be focused. I mean, I think the Eagles are going to be competitive. I think it's going to be a good game, but to actually expect them to beat the Niners. But if the Eagles should beat the Niners, I will say this, then my mindset is they're going to be in contention for the NFC East title until at least late in the season. I'm still not going to pick them to win it, but I think they're going to be hanging around, which is going to exceed expectations. Because if all the Eagles do this year is contend for the NFC East title, even if they finish in third place when all's said and done, then I feel the year's been a success.
I mean, just watching the game from last night, I kind of felt like I was watching Wednesday night college football. And that's kind of what that game reminded me of. It wasn't very crisp. Some of the problems. I mean, literally the last play of the game, you went off sides and they get to kick with no time on the clock to win the game. I mean, the Giants did everything they can to give that game up, and they did. Yeah. And Washington tried everything they could to not win the game, and they wind up pulling it out anyways. So it literally is, after looking at that game and watching and seeing that, obviously we don't play any of these teams until week 13 or week 12. So it's going to be a long season just to get to the NFC East. And after watching what I saw, I mean, I don't know if the Giants are going to be able to recover.
No,
I think that Saquon Barkley had the one good run, and that was it.
Let me the Giants inside your head, Pax. Let me detour back to the Niner-Eagle game. The Eagles are preparing for Jimmy Garoppolo, but Trey Lance might easily come in. I mean, it's not going to throw off the Eagle defense if Trey Lance gets in earlier than you think.
Absolutely not. I think that if Trey Lance gets in there, that game is definitely a win for us. Garoppolo has got the pedigree. He was the one. He was supposed to be the heir apparent to Tom Brady, and then he goes out to San Francisco. He learns a new system, takes him to the Super Bowl. Next season, he gets hurt. Next season after that, they draft a quarterback saying, well, we don't know if Garoppolo's our guy. Really? He just took you to the Super Bowl where he was in the lead in the fourth quarter, and you lost to maybe one of the best quarterbacks, in the modern, in today's football. And you're going to say all of a sudden that he's not a good enough quarterback to start on this team. I would relish the idea of having that rookie go in there, because I think that the defensive line would have a field day.
Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so, Pags. Listen, I'm not going to get too high on Eagles yet, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there, Pags. Last week they showed me something, but they still got to play the 49ers, and they still got to play the Redskins and the Giants and the Cowboys at the end of the season. And by then, all three teams might be better. There was bad coaching in the Giants. Washington, its defense is not as good as maybe people said. And the Cowboys' offense is dangerous. We know that, right? And if their defense gets better, they got a shot. So I think the NFC East is going to be very competitive all the way up to the end of the season. And I think the Eagles are in the mix. I definitely think if they compete with the 49ers, if the 49ers just get by them, or if the Eagles win that game, I'm coming on the Eagles. I'm falling on the other side of the fence. So played a great game.
Matt, you're going to fall on the Houston Texan bandwagon. They won last week. If you're doing this show from Texas, you'd be raving about the Texans. I mean,
why not? Why not? They played a good game. I mean, listen, whatever.
They played a good game against the team that's probably going to go 0-17. It's going to be the first team to ever go 0-17.
The Falcons might go 0-17, Pags. You know what I'm saying? So let's not. They took care of business, and that's what you got to do, right? I mean, you play who you play against. You take care of business. If you can't take care of business like the Giants didn't last night, then who knows what's going to happen this season. But who they played against, and they won. And in fact, I think. They were underdogs. Pags going in, the Texans. So, everybody thought the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to beat them. They didn't. So, I mean, hey, props to Houston. Hope they win next week. That would be great to see the Texans do something this year. But anyway.
But I see the Eagles going 3-0 and then actually losing the next 3 games after that. So I have them going 500 through week 6. I may be right. I may be wrong. I think this is going to be a very close game. Of course, I'll probably change my tune once they're 3-0 and say, hey, yeah, they're going to be 5-1 or 4-2.
Why not?
But
Why not?
real is real. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what I think.
Why not? Why not change your tune as long as your team's winning? You can sing what you want, Bags. I won't stop you. Go ahead and sing the praises. So the Phillies are still hanging in there. They just whooped the Chicago Cubs 17-6. They're 2 games behind Atlanta. They're 2 games out in the wild card race too. I mean, they're hanging in there. What do you think about your team over there in the National League East, Bags?
I don't know. It's like it's such a roller coaster. It is such a roller coaster, and and sometimes it's like a loop-de-loop roller coaster. It's not even just the ups and downs. It's like literally, it's like no. You know what I mean? It's just a complete loop. The fact that St. Louis and Cincinnati have difficult schedules moving forward is one of the caveats that I think that the Phillies do have. However, they're not winning the games that they're supposed to win. And the fact that they're not doing that, again, I feel that they're not – these bullpen games got to stop. I mean, it's like they go and they do pretty well for 2 innings, and then the 3rd inning they scored 7 runs. Now, luckily, the next inning the Phillies came back and hit them up for 7 runs, and then just kept the bats working again. But ultimately, it's like that's not going to be able to do it. And if to get into the wild card, I felt that the only way to win anywhere in the playoffs is to win the division and get the chance to play against Milwaukee, because we seem to have Milwaukee's number.
Well, they're 3 games out, the Phillies, not 2, the way Max said. They're 2.5 games out of a wild card, but that's a bigger long shot than people think, because they have to beat out the Padres, the Reds, and the Cardinals. So that's a long shot, even though it's only 2.5 games.
Well, they're going to be beating up on each other this weekend. And the Phillies are going up against the Baltimore Orioles. So, I mean, there really should be there should be a couple of wins for the Phillies.
The Yankees were going up against the Baltimore Orioles. That was my line.
We're not talking about the Yankees right now. We already talked about the Yankees. We're talking about the Phillies right now, Jack. And the Phillies are still alive. And that's got to make every fan out there at least a little happy. I mean, you're not in love. You know what I mean? It's like dating a girl, Bags. You're not in love, but you like her a lot. She's okay. She's doing her thing, and she's still got a shot.
The Phillies' former girlfriend, Gabe Kapler, what a job with the Giants. No one could see that coming. I mean, what a job. You have to give him credit. He was basically dismissed in Philadelphia. They couldn't get him out of town quick enough, but he's been a phenomenal manager this year.
And this is his 2nd year. I mean, obviously, this is his 2nd year with the Giants, and he learned a lot from last year and learned a lot from Philadelphia. Obviously, you have to give kudos where kudos are due. I mean, I said that in July he was going to start to trail off, and that didn't happen. It didn't happen in August. It still hasn't happened in September. I mean, obviously, it looks like that they are going to wind up winning that division. I mean, short of a real big push or maybe a sweep by the Dodgers. I'm sure they play the Dodgers a couple more times between now and then. But ultimately, I mean, he's doing a great job over there. And that's the reason, that would be the hard part for me, that the Phillies get in the wild card. They happen to win that wild card game, and then we got to go up against Dave Kapler. And to watch Dave Kapler get us out of the playoffs would be something that I would, I would not be excited about. I mean, obviously, it would be really tough to watch that and have that pill to swallow. So, I know that Atlanta's got a fairly easy schedule as well. All of the teams above us in the wild card have much more difficult schedules. However, this really relies on Girardi. Girardi is going to be really scrutinized here. You have to be able to use your guys in the proper way. And the fact that he's got to make all the right decisions now. He cannot continue to start to be a little whimsical, as the manager here. And I feel like that he's been very wishy-washy with some of the things that he's done, and it's cost this team some games. And obviously, losing games to Colorado in the last at bat of the game when you're at home, just not showing any heart against the after the sixth inning against the Cubs the other night, the game I was at on Tuesday, and it was like that game couldn't get over fast enough, and I'm trying to rally the troops, and there's just no rally in them. So
you got to get on top of the dugout. I told you, Bags. You got to get on top of the dugout, challenge the Philly mascot to a wrestling match, and maybe you'll get some people.
Hey, the Fanatic and I are friends. We actually have been in a few pictures and things like that together. So I wouldn't do that. I might have to do the juju like he does up there. So it might be two of us up there. And of course, I'm a lot louder than he is.
Yes.
Bryce Harper, MVP candidate or not?
He's definitely a candidate. I mean, obviously, even during this drop-off, he's still been doing what he's been doing. And, I mean, you remember he started off the season so poorly, and to be up above – I think he's above 300 right now batting. I mean, that shows you how well he's been doing since then. So it's – once he got back from being hurt, he's really been on a tear. And there hasn't been anybody else short of Ohtani. You know what I mean? But there hasn't been anybody else that's really wowed me other than, what he's been doing. Like what he's been doing has been wow material.
Well, I think there's a guy playing. I think there's a guy playing for Toronto that's doing pretty well.
Vlad Guerrero Jr., who, if he doesn't get the MVP and Ohtani gets it, that's a crime.
Yeah.
Because it's not called Best Player Award, it's called Most Valuable, and the Angels haven't been a factor, and Toronto's been a factor. So Vlad deserves that award, not Ohtani.
I agree. I agree with that, Jack. You're going to be at the game, I would imagine, against the 49ers. Is that right, Philly guy?
Absolutely. They're giving me my own tailgate. We're going to have AJ Feely there at our tailgate here at the Gatehouse at the Navy Yard. The old Sailor Dog's going into the Navy Yard because that's where I should be to do my tailgate.
Nice.
And then I get ready to go to Dallas, as I am hosting down there with Philly Sports Trips. The Philly Sports guy, Philly Sports Trips, you can't go wrong. And that's ultimately, I'm excited. Everything starts tomorrow. They're having a big fan fest here for a radio station that's also going to be at my tailgate. And, so I'm going to go down there and tout them for a minute and get everything ready to go for this Sunday, which should be amazing.
The Eagles are down 10-3 at the half. Do the fans boo the Eagles as they're going into the locker room?
The fans will always boo when they are unhappy, in Philadelphia. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Unlike the television show, things aren't always sunny in Philadelphia.
Yes.
So my expectation is that if it is 10-3 and they see poor play, if they see good play and, it's down 10-3, it's a different story. And really 10-3 is not that big of a deal. You know what I mean?
No.
I look at that as a little bit of a win, being down 10-3 in the first half. Obviously, you'd like to see more scoring, but my expectation is that it's going to be a little bit higher scoring than that. I think that this is going to be a high-scoring game.
Now, remember, Pags, I talked to you off air. I need that Philly update Sunday for the show, man. I need you to come in 5-10 minutes. Get on here. Tell us what's going on there, what the buzz is, what your thoughts are about the game, the big football show on Sunday. We got Keith in for the Pats. We need you for the Eagles, and hopefully you can make that happen.
I will do everything in my power to make sure that happens before the game starts. Give you the Philly sports guy top 5 reasons the Eagles are going to win this game. And,
all right, man. We're talking show material. I like that stuff. Pags, again, congratulations on your Eagles and your Phillies. I'm with you on the Phillies, man. Hey, listen, they're in the hunt. Nothing wrong with that. And good luck to you guys on Sunday, man. I think that down deep, I think the 49ers are going to win this, but I'll be rooting for you guys. I want to see you guys do good. I want to see you guys beat them. So,
you want to see a happy Philly sports guy when I come on the show on Friday. You don't want to see me all miserable and be like, you know what I mean?
Mac is a Giant fan, but he's rooting for the Eagles to win a divisional game.
Yeah. Yes. Well, it's not a divisional game. They're playing the 49ers. So,
for the standings in the NFC East, that's what I mean.
Well, I mean, they're already a game and a half behind us, and they, so it's going to be. I think the Giants are going to have a very long year, and I'm beginning to believe that Judge is not the answer for them.
Well, we'll see. It's only the second game, and we don't know. I mean, that game was theirs. They blew it, and that's what happens. The record is what your record is. It doesn't matter. We can make all the excuses we want. But when your quarterback is your leading rusher, they got problems over there, right? I mean, that's the number one problem. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's good at running the football, but he's no Lamar Jackson. He's not going to win games. They're not going to win games.
Hey, it looked good that 19-yard didn't tackle him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was able to get around that 19-yard line, which is a big deal for him. Yes. You know what I mean? He likes to trip on that a little bit. So
I just said I root for the Eagles. He's taking shots at my Giants. You see that, Jack? You see that? He's taking shots at my Giants going off the area.
Well, you gave him the opportunity. You said you're rooting for the Eagles.
I am.
I can't imagine an Eagle co-host of a show or something saying that they're rooting for the Giants to win.
Listen,
and now they're playing out of division. I can understand the Eagles are playing the Redskins or Cowboys.
Right.
Then you're rooting for the Eagles to win that game. I can understand that as a Giant fan. But they're playing a team not in their division, not in the Giants division, and you're rooting for the Eagles.
Let me ask you a question, Jack, all right? And you too, Pat. At the end of the year, whoever wins the NFC East, that's who I'm rooting for. That's the way I am. I mean, whether it's the Giants, the Redskins, Cowboys, I got a problem with the Cowboys. Maybe I'm lying. Cowboys, maybe not. But the rest of the teams, Washington, the Eagles, the Giants, if they're in the playoffs and my team's not in there, I'm the NFC East guy, man. That's what I am. I mean, and then after that, then I guess I got to go to AFC East and the Jets and the Pats, I guess, because they're from around here. I want to see the Northeast do good. That's all. That's the whole scheme of Northeast Streaming Sports Chat. You know what I mean? I mean, we have shows down the coast, but I root for the teams from the Northeast. That's just the way I am.
So I mean, I was on with Sneaky all night last night watching that game, and I was just rooting for good play. So, and that I didn't root at all because there was nothing to really be excited about. Every time there was something to be excited about, I mean, that Daniel Jones rushing touchdown that got called back because of holding, that the guy didn't even need to hold. Even need to hold. I mean, it's just it was those types of mistakes that really make me believe that it could be a 2-horse race between Eagles and Dallas.
But those are mistakes that you can correct, too, Pags. So don't forget that. End of the year will be decided, Pags. Mark my words. When we're all playing each other at the end of the year, that's going to decide the division. That's when it's going to be really exciting. So, again, Pags, enjoy the game. Have a great Friday, and we'll see you next week. And hopefully we'll see you on Sunday. All right, my friend?
Absolutely, guys. Have a great week.
You too, Pags. Thanks. So there you go. Jack, the Philly sports guy, giving us the Philly information. Hey, you should be celebrating. You should be happy, man. Both his teams are in contention.
Yeah, the Phillies, it's Atlanta's waiting for someone to pass them, and the Phillies haven't quite did it. But, maybe the Phillies will go on a little surge and catch Atlanta. I don't think so.
Not me either. But
and the Eagles, you take it week by week. If they beat the 49ers, then there's going to be a lot of excitement in Philadelphia.
I agree. And I think that they're not – that's not a long shot. Let's put it this way. I think the 49ers will beat them, but it's not a long shot that the Eagles win that game. So, folks, thanks for joining us on our Friday show, getting you ready for the weekend. Tomorrow we'll be here with the Saturday debate show. Sunday, we'll have our big football show with Jim Jeffcoat for the people who know him. And Jack, on Sunday, will be going into the New York State Boxing Hall of Fame. That's the updates from the Mac and Jack show. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow at 8. Have a great Friday, folks.